Craig McLean and welcome to episode 19 of the Mark 1 Escort RS2000 reassembly. I'm hoping to make more progress with the axle. I've got some more bits coming to try and progress that on. I want to try and push it in the right direction. We've got a couple of issues I need to get round, which I'll cover, if not in this episode, certainly in the next one. So yeah, I'm going to try and get the axle finished in this one, but if not, it'll probably more than likely be the one after. So yeah, let's get cracking with some of the axle jobs and other little odds and sods that I've got here and there. We'll get on with some of that as well. So a little job I've just been getting on with this morning is making this little aluminium bracket, and this is to hold the air temperature sensor. And this will pick up on two mounting lobes on the bottom of the throttle bodies. This just needs to be mounted somewhere near the air intake so that the ECU knows what temperature the air surrounding the car is. So yeah, I've just put this together out of aluminium. I've drilled it and tapped it to M10 1.25 to take the sensor, drilled two mounting fixings, and now I'm just going to simply mount that to the bottom of the throttle bodies. Nice little easy job. And I've got to say, if there's one tool that I use the most when it comes to fabricating, I would be lost without my vernier caliper. I really would. This gets used, I would say, every single day I'm in the garage. I use this for something or other. I do have a digital one as well, but just for the everyday stuff, I just use this this old standard one. Really helpful bit of kit. I think they're a fantastic measuring tool, a vernier caliper. Anyways, I can now get this little sensor and bracket fitted. So I've just been running the cables through for the water temperature sensor to tell the radiator fan to kick in, and also the water temperature sensor to tell the gauge in the car what temperature the engine's running at. They're all ran in nice and neatly and all heat shrunk. The only thing I can't do is mount the cable onto the thread of the sensor, simply because God knows what thread it is. It's 5mm in diameter, but I cannot find a nut anywhere to fit it. It annoys me this when you get sensors and they don't give you the nuts for them, but it is what it is. I'll have to find a nut. Right, I've now got the water temperature sensor fitted and tightened up. And the reason why we couldn't find a nut for it is because it isn't even a thread. That sensor has simply got a serration all the way around. I tried everywhere looking for a nut. My mate took it over his house. He tried everywhere looking for a nut. Couldn't find anything. And then he was stood there looking at it and he went, you know what? This isn't even a thread. It's a serration. So what I've done with it, I've actually run a die down it, an M5 die, just enough to get an M5 nut on and a spring washer. And that's that now connected up. So something different today. I've got to make some kind of locating pegs to fit inside the lowering block. So I've got a bit of nylon. I'm in a good friend's garage next door, and I'm going to machine this bit of nylon to fit inside the lowering block. So let's get cracking. I would like to point out that I've had absolutely no training on the lathe. Everything I know on the lathe is what I've taught myself. Did used to have my own little MyFit, and I am looking at getting a new one in future. So just bear that in mind when you're watching the footage. Want it to be a good snug fit, that's why I'm taking my time. It's only perfect, but I'll have to do, eh? So next I need to put an 8mm hole down the centre for the securing bolt. Good snug fit. And there we go. 2 equal spaces that fit snugly inside the lowering blocks and can be clamped down onto the leaf springs. There's our little nylon bush in place, or little spacer. It's simply bolted through. And what happens now is you take your lowering block, which has got a 23mm hole in the bottom, and that basically fits nice and tight, good snug fit onto that spacer. And we've got one of them for both sides, so we can fit the other side identical to this one. Another little jobbed. Right, today's delivery. I have just spent way more on these than I would have liked to have. I've been looking for a good set of handles for a while and no such luck. I got told recently from GS Escorts that the only thing you can do is find a set that aren't pitted and get them re-chromed. And finding a good set to get re-chromed is a nightmare, and they don't often come up. So this was one of them purchases where they came up on eBay, they were listed as show class condition. They basically said these handles will pass any inspection from anybody, and I've got to be honest, they really would. They're absolutely faultless. I honestly thought that we'd lost the ability to chrome properly these days, because I don't think we can use the same chemicals that they used to be able to use for the process due to you know, the environment and all the rest of it. But these are absolutely gorgeous. Like I say, I've spent more on them, a lot more on them than I would have liked, but they really are the top draw. They'll just finish off the car beautifully. So yeah, it was one of them purchases where I found them and I was like, no, I can't afford them this month. But you just can't pass. You cannot pass on stuff like this. You've just got to get them while they're there. So I just had to snap them up. So yeah, they came today, and I've also ordered the proper plastic trims that go in behind between the handle and the door. So that's something else I can get on with this weekend. I can get them fitted. So I've got some bits back from Powder Coat. This time I've went to C&D Coatings. Done a really nice job of them. The bottom spring hanger mounts look really nice. They've come up beautiful. Nothing wrong with them. The backing plates, however, obviously it's not their fault. This is just the material they're working with, and they are a little bit pitted, even though they've been powder coated. They don't look fantastic, to be honest. And same goes for the other one. The front anti-roll bar mounts, they're pretty good as well. There's not much wrong with them at all. Certainly nothing worth bothering about. They've come up nice. The other brackets, I'm not even certain I'm going to end up using them, but got them powder coated anyways. But yeah, he actually said to us what they're going on, and I showed him a picture, and he says, I've been following your build. He says, I'm ashamed to give you them now, knowing what the car they're going on. But he's been absolutely fantastic, and he said to me, if I spend a little bit of time and rub these down, use some light sandpaper, maybe 80 grit, take the top surface off, sand it flat so that the powder coat is acting as a filler. He says, if you do that, spend a bit of time on them and bring them back to me, he says, I'll recoat them at no extra charge, which I thought was fantastic of him. And me being me, I think that's what I'm going to end up doing, because that's going to really bug me. The inside of the drum, again, is ever so lightly pitted here and there, but I'm not too worried about that because that's on the inside. And although I always say that it should be perfect no matter where it is, it's still well coated. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not visibly pleasing to the eye. So I think I'm going to concentrate on the outside edge on the back, and I'm going to knock this back and spend a bit of time on it. And hopefully when I get it re-powder coated, it'll be somewhere near, you know, the standard we're looking for. So yeah, that's a couple of bits. I've just got back today. 1.5 hours later and almost bleeding fingers. I've got these flatted back. Only time will tell if it's made a massive difference. I think it'll definitely make a difference. They probably won't be absolutely perfect, but I think they'll be somewhere near. They'll be a lot better anyways. But there's only one way to tell. And I think you'll agree, that is a major improvement. Absolutely chuffed with that. It turned out better than I expected. There is 1 or 2 tiny little imperfections, but certainly nothing to worth bothering about. So yeah, thanks very much to the lads at CD Coatings. I think it's CD rather than C&D. They're based at Broughton, Cumbria. If you need any powder coating in the area, they've been absolutely spot on with me. I can only recommend them. So yeah, thanks to the lads. I've now got another set of parts that are ready to fit. absolutely beautiful. Really, really easy to fit. The amount of parts I've had recently that have been a pain to fit, these were a joy. Just 2 screws from the back. One there, and one just inside there. And then a little link rod to link down to the lock. And simple as that. I have to excuse the rattly door. The window mechanism's still in after the window smashed. The other door's got a really lovely clunk now it's all together because the other door's pretty much finished. So yeah, absolutely chuffed to bits with that. Like I say, I paid a lot for them, but yeah, a really, really lovely finishing touch. So now that I've got the brackets to mount the anti-dive kit, I've actually went and mounted the anti-dive kit. Now I understand these bolts will have to come back out to put the clamps on to mount the anti-roll bar, but the reason why I have mounted this dive kit, this bracket, will become very apparent very shortly. So I mentioned a couple of videos that I'm doing the coolant hoses between the heater, the bottom hose, the oil cooler. Rather than doing it all in flexible hose, I'm doing it in hard line. So I'm going to bend these pipes into the exact shape and put weld tabs onto these pipes to pick up on bolt locations to make it as neat as possible. And this is stainless steel pipe. It's 15mm OD and it's 1.5mm wall. It should fit my standard pipe bender and bend up quite nicely. So that's today's job. I've got a lot of pipe work to do today to try and get these looking ultra neat. So let's give it a go. Right, this is what 6 hours has produced. And I'll show you very shortly, as best as I can, exactly where these fit. But when they're in place, they look absolutely fantastic. So much better than running rubber hoses. You'll see in a minute what I mean. Anyways, it's such a neater way of doing it. It's really, really nice. So yeah, it's a lot of hours. It takes to produce these, bend them, get them exactly right, but I really do think it's worth it. I'll let you make up your own minds in a second. Right, pipe number 1. This is the shorter one. This goes from the rubber hose up there that you can just see, comes down, along, picks up on the bellhousing bolt, goes across. Then at the other side, picks up again off the engine mount, comes across, and then I've got a simple loop. It's hard to see, but there's basically a U loop from that pipe that you can see there, round the oil filter to the other side of the water cooler, or the oil cooler. That's just a simple loop, but it makes a really neat job of it. But the other pipe is the one I'm really impressed with. Now then, this pipe comes out of the the bottom radiator hose, hoops round, runs along under the radiator, comes back up the other side. You can just see the end of the pipe there. So that there is the end of the pipe. I'll try and point at it. That there's the end of the pipe on the cooler. And that's the pipe I've run in. It just needs chop back and a simple black silicone 90-degree angle on it. And that, to me, makes such... I'll try and angle it differently for you. It just makes such a nice job of it. That pipe, I can't show you how nice it is on camera. It's really difficult, but it looks absolutely superb. I'm so pleased with it. Yeah, it just needs a couple of new Jubilee clips and we can get that finished off. And if you guessed, the reason why I mounted the anti-dive bracket was so that I could mount the coolant hose from it. Then feel free to engage smug mode, as the Bad Obsession Motorsport lads would say. So for those of you interested in how I bent the pipes, and a couple of little tips in how to bend the pipe, this is basically how I did it. Now bear in mind, this bender is designed for copper tube. It's not designed for stainless pipe. So if you're going to be bending this tube using this kind of bender, you really need to have your Weetabix, because it takes some doing. It's actually, it's quite nerve-wracking actually, because you're putting so much pressure and tension onto a lot of these parts that you'd actually think you're going to break the bender. So this must be a decent high quality bender, because it's managed the full job, absolutely no problem whatsoever. But something to bear in mind, if you are going to be bending using one of these type of benders, you do need a decent bender, because it'll probably shatter a cheap one. So basically, just a little tip to show how I get the bends in the right place. I learned a lot of pipe bending being an electrician, bending conduit, and this is how I do it. It's not the ultimate way of doing it. It's not the only way you can do it. There are other ways, but this is how I do it. So let's say we take a piece of pipe and we want a bend 180 mil. So from the edge of the pipe to the back edge of the bend, we want it to be 180 mil exactly. We don't want the bend to be in the wrong place. It's got to be exact, and the back end of the bend's got to be 180 mil. This is how I do it. Now, because it's so hard to bend, I've put the bender in the vise, as you can see, because it's the only way I could do it. It's really tough stuff to bend this. So what you've got to remember is, put your mark on the pipe, but you must put the section that you're wanting the bend in. So from where you've measured from, the end that you've measured from needs to go into the stop. So basically you slide it into your former, put the clamp on. Now that section there is the 180 mil from the end of the pipe to that pen mark. I don't know if you can see just there. That's your 180 mil. If you made the 180 mil from the other end back to the former, it will not bend in the right place. Don't ask me how I know it. Anyways, so this is how I do it. So basically, take a square, line your square up with the edge of the pen line, and bring that pen line so that it's in line with the very edge of the former. So now we've got the pen line there, right there, and it's in line with the edge of the former. And this is the start point. Like I say, you've got to measure through the former, not up to it. Always measure through it. So now we've got our pen line lined up with the edge of our former. We can take our bending piece, slide in, and basically force that handle in that direction. I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to wreck a good bit of pipe. And when you've bent that section round, it takes a couple of attempts to make sure you get it perfectly 90 degrees. You've just got to keep putting it back in the former and bending it again until you get it right. Once you've bent it, the distance between the edge of the pipe and the back end of your bend should be exactly 180 mil as you set it up. And I did it yesterday and it worked every time. I got the bends in the right place every time, apart from the time where I've just mentioned where I put the pipe in the other way, not thinking about it, and I ended up with a bend in the wrong place. Luckily, I could just chop off the edge of the pipe. It was about 30 mil too long. So basically, that's how I set up the pipe bender and how I bend the tubing for the coolant hoses. Right, now have the elbow fitted to our newly made steel or stainless steel hose. As you can see now, it comes across into the cooler, and with the oil filter removed, it's easier to see, if I can get the sun to stop glaring, and just how the route goes from the pipe on the left over the hoop into the oil cooler. So yeah, that makes it a bit easier to see, I think, without the oil cooler, without the oil filter in the way. And from above, that's such a nice, neat solution, I think. I really do. I'm so happy with that pipe. Every now and again, you produce something and you really surprise yourself what you can do. So yeah, I'm so pleased with that. That's been a nice, neat job of a bit of a tricky situation. So the next batch of parts has arrived from one of my favourite suppliers again, GS Escorts. That's just my wife's mother's dog having a bark in the background because people are walking by. Anyways, so now we'll start with the anti-tramp bars, new set of anti-tramp bars with poly bushes. I've just pressed the new poly bushes in, they came separate, so they're now ready to fit. I've got washers, castle nuts and split pins for the front anti-roll bar. The only thing I need for the anti-roll bar now is some poly bushes for the anti-dive kit, which I'll be ordering very soon. We've got bump stops for the rear axle. I've got a bonnet release cable. I don't need the cable, I've already got a new cable, I just need the lever. So I'll be swapping that over. And finally, we've got this. This is a Willwood Bulkhead Mountable master cylinder to replace the original Bulkhead Mountable master cylinders that used to be fitted on some of them back in the day. This has got split cylinders, so this cylinder inside is split in two, as most are. So separate compartments, split down the middle. So if you have a leak rather on your I think that's front line and rear line. So if you have a leak on one line, you don't lose fluid from your other line. It's obviously a safety mech, safety feature. But yeah, that's obviously made by Wilwood, a well-established brake producer, and that'll be mounted on the bulkhead very shortly in the next couple of days, piped up, ready for the system to be completed and bled. So I just thought that was a great way of getting around the braking issue, because I'd have liked a remote servo, if I'm honest, but I'm trying to keep under the bonnet fairly minimalistic. I didn't really want one of the big remote servos in there. To be honest, I don't really have room for it, because I want the battery under the bonnet as it was originally, and the remote servos generally mount where the battery is, and I haven't got the room for that, so I've decided to go for this. So yeah, this mounts in the standard location on the bulkhead, and the throttle bodies are at least an inch and a half above, so there's loads of clearance. I can get at them to fill them up, and I think that's a great way of getting around that issue. So yeah, you'll see some of these parts being fitted in the next couple of days. Right guys, I'm hoping you can maybe help me out. I've had some fantastic help from the viewers in the past, so I thought I would ask the question, see if anyone can possibly help me out. I've been looking absolutely everywhere for a set of door locks. Because they make so much stuff for the Escorts, I just assumed that you'd be able to buy them, either new or reproduction items, and you can't. I can't find them anywhere. I've looked and looked and looked, and it's the only thing stopped me finishing the doors off, really. I can't really put the door cards on until I get the door locks in. So if anybody knows where there's any decent door locks, I'm not expecting them to be 100% perfect, because they've been around many years. As long as they're, you know, pretty good, as long as they're, you know, they're pretty tidy, and they've got keys with them. I need one for both sides, as long as everything's there and the keys work with the locks. I don't mind if the keys aren't suited from side to side. That's no problem. If it's a different key for each door, I don't mind. I just need a decent set of locks. So if anyone knows where there's any at, or where I can get them, please let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. Like I say, I've had great help from you guys in the past, so I thought I may as well ask the question. Well guys, I'm going to leave that video here. Looks like I've failed again to complete the axle. Mainly down to the fact that getting hold of parts is a bit tricky at times, getting them here in time. But yeah, I'll make every effort to get that finished in the next one for sure, and I think I probably will. I've still got a couple of issues with the half shaft, which I think I'm on top of now. I'll go into that a little bit more in the next episode. So thanks very much for watching, guys. As mentioned before, if you do know anywhere where I can get any of the door locks, please do let me know. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you very soon, guys, on the next one.